Hello, everybody. We're going to be starting in 1 minute. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for making the time to join us. Today's webinar is titled Revolutionizing the Way Students Learn. So thank you for joining us. We're really delighted to have you as part of this transformative educational journey. Throughout this webinar, we'll be exploring different ideas, cutting-edge technology, innovative methodologies that are really reshaping the landscape of education. And as we embark on this inspiring quest to redefine how students learn, I invite you to engage with us, to learn, be inspired by the possibilities that lie ahead. Together, let us pave the path to a brighter and more effective future of learning. My name is Sean Swartz. I'm the CEO of SK Education Solutions, and we are live on YouTube. We have made the comments facility available for you to post your questions. Feel free to type your questions in the comments facility. We will be monitoring these questions, and we will try our best to ensure our expert panelists answer your questions after the presentation. We have an exciting lineup, great topics to explore, from enhancing basic education to empowering high school equivalency certificates, to preparing the workforce of the future, to fostering professional development. I guess we have a wealth of insights to share with you today. Together, we'll dive into the transformative ideas and technologies that are reshaping education. So let's embark on this journey together, and let's revolutionize the way our students learn. Today, we're very privileged to have Dan Griffith with us. He's joined us from Essential Education. Dan is the president of the Educator division from Essential Education. Essential Education has helped literally millions and millions of people take the steps towards a brighter future. They do this by listening to educators like you, and then they build innovative solutions to help you succeed in the classroom. They help students understand why they are learning what they're learning, while at the same time adapting to a level of understanding that is not intimidating for them. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in the comments facility. Dan, thank you so much for joining us. We're very excited for you to share your knowledge with us.
Thank you, Sean. I appreciate that. And thanks to all of you who are joining us today. I'm excited for the chance to show you some things about our program and talk a little bit about how we are working to make changes and support the efforts that you're making, working individually with students all across the world. A little background about me, just as a side note, is that I'm a high school dropout. I dropped out of high school when I was just finished my junior year. Lived in my car for about a month before I found somebody crazy enough to let a 17-year-old rent a shack from him, and then eventually realized I needed education if I was going to get to any of the goals in my life. And so I went back, I got my GED, I went to college, I became a teacher, and then got into educational publishing. And so one of the things that I love about being involved with Essential Education is it's really full circle for me. It's a chance to do something that I really passionately believe in, which is that all individuals have unique pathways. Not everybody has to follow the exact same pathway to find success and joy in life. And sometimes people need different experiences and they come to education at a different place. But when you're sure that when you are at a place in your life where you say, I get it, I need to be educated if I'm going to move in the direction I want for myself and my family, that anything we can do to make that journey fast and efficient and effective for you is important. So today, we're going to talk about a couple of things that we work on primarily as a company and how those appear in our programs and the different programs that we have. And so one of our biggest questions that we ask ourselves all the time is, how do we keep students coming back? And you, I'm sure, face that as well. Students come in, people come in, they have times where they want to be engaged, and then life happens to them and things come up in their life. And it's difficult, especially for adult learners who are oftentimes balancing jobs and family and other responsibilities. And then they need to try to squeeze their learning in there at the same time. So retention is a big one. Engagement is incredibly important to us. Adult learners don't want to be in a place where they're slogging through kind of, repetitious things that don't make them feel successful and that don't connect to their lives. So engaging them in content is important, and contextualizing and differentiating it so that it meets that individual's needs are critical as well. And then we're always trying to make sure we can make things affordable to people, because in this world with inflation and all the different things and challenges that we have, we know people are oftentimes giving up important aspects of their life to invest in their education. And so we need to make that a goal of our company. And so those are kind of the four guiding principles that we work under. I'm going to go through a few slides and then I'm going to go live into the program as well. Show you different things that we do and the direction that the programs can take learners of all different levels and ages. So we have a variety of programs in our academic curriculum. So we really start at kind of a second grade level through 12th grade content. That's how we talk about it in the US. So it would be, real elementary school level through the end of high school level, and preparing people to go into post-secondary and workforce certification, career and technical ed, we call it here as well, type of programs. And so from an academic curriculum perspective, people need to read, write, understand grammar effectively, and be able to do mathematics at a sufficient level to move into any career field. And so we have our GED programs. We also have a program called TABE Academy that is built for basic education in math, reading, and writing, grammar. And then we have our newest partnership with a company called MindPlay, which is a full reading program from phonics to fluency. So it's going to give students an individual assessment, and from that assessment, it will build a full curriculum, move them through adaptively to make sure that they're making gains in reading. In the US anyway, that's particularly important because many of the people who are working with students are not necessarily trained in true reading, as reading specialists. And there's a lot that goes into teaching someone to read, getting things in the right order, making sure that the content is delivered effectively, making sure that the practice moves them towards fluency and comprehension. And so MindPlay was a big integration for us to make sure that we provided that reading coach, that virtual reading coach, to each student so that they could progress as far as possible. And when you think about any career field, and there's tons of research that shows the connection between reading levels and lifetime earnings, happiness, partner choices, how long you stay in a relationship with people. I mean, everything improves in your life as your reading level increases. So it was a real important part of what we've done recently to bolster and to support individuals in our academic curriculum. There are a few things about this program that we really were drawn to. First is that it does give a universal screener. So it connects to students to create an individualized learning plan. And that's really a hallmark of Essential Ed's programs as well, is that we are finding out where the gaps are for individuals and then seeking to fill those gaps and do it in the correct order so that you're building a real foundation for people to learn and to continue their educational journey. It uses an online reading coach. It requires minimal instructor involvement. It tracks students' progress. And as I said, it adjusts accordingly, and it provides remediation, acceleration, all of the key areas of reading: phonics, grammar, fluency, comprehension, phonemic awareness, vocabulary. All of that's built in to Mind Play Reading. And I'll show you in a minute how easy it is to access that. One of the things I like to point out, though, is that this isn't a program just for lower level readers. No matter where you are in your life, improving your reading skills can benefit you. I remember going to college and, you know, being handed a textbook basically, and well, I had to go buy it actually. Was told immediately, you know, like you went to the first day of classes and they said, you know, have the first 4 chapters read by Wednesday. And for someone like me, I've never really enjoyed reading that much. That was a big lift to try to read, you know, 4 chapters of textbook in a couple of days. So no matter where you are, whether you're preparing for workforce credentials, college credentials, moving into post-secondary, or a struggling reader who's maybe never been particularly good at reading, Mind Play can meet you where you are and take you from there. Finally, just a couple of key elements for the educator side of our academic curriculum. First is that we always provide in-depth correlations, and I'm going to show you that in just a minute. But for instance, to the GED, we are 100% correlated to the GED. You can go in and search by keywords, by actual objective numbers, and see exactly which content in our program matches that. So even if you're using a set of standards maybe different in name, you could go in and search for something like order of operations, and we will show you all of the lessons that relate to order of operations. And so that creates a great way for you to be able to use the content in direct instruction and blended learning environments with students. We provide some really powerful, easy to read diagnostic reports, so you can see study time and skill mastery of students. The lesson and practice is easily accessed for classroom use. I travel to classrooms all over the US and regularly see teachers projecting our lessons up on a screen or doing it virtually like we are right now, and projecting the lesson, stopping it, talking about it, taking tangents and going down side roads of content to integrate other aspects of and resources that teachers want to bring into a lesson. But using our lessons is really a foundation for teaching without having to go develop a bunch of PowerPoints or something like that. And then the learning plans really support differentiated instruction. So there's all kinds of ways to take our learning plans and create unique pathways for each student that connect to their personal needs and interests. All right, let's see. I think I was going to talk about this, and then we're going to go into the program for a minute. The lessons, as I said early on, are meant to be engaging. They're contextualized for students so that they understand how things relate to their life. The content is chunked and manageable, and we haven't just repackaged K-12 content, but we actually have, you know, developed things that relate to an audience that's moving either in adulthood or towards adulthood, and really is respectful of them and what they're trying to do in their life. So let me switch over real quick here to this, and I want to jump into the actual program for a minute. Just move this. So This is the learning management system in the program. Many of you may be familiar with it. Some of you maybe haven't seen it. And you can see that there's tabs. We try to keep things pretty clear, name them what they actually are so that you can find them. So the administration tab is where you would put students and teachers into the program. Free resources and training are exactly what they sound like. And when we get over here to the content maps page or tab, you see a few different options. One is for correlations, practice tests, scope and sequence, and then our motivational videos. So I've brought up the scope and sequence in our GED reading language arts section, reasoning through language arts. And so you can see that it starts at a pre-GED level, about a 5th grade level. Our TABE Academy program is that pre-GED bridging type program. So that's another program, another course offering. That goes all the way down to 2nd grade level. But in GED, we start about a 5th, 6th grade level. And so you can see here, we're going to start with some intermediate vocabulary. Every unit in the program starts with a test out quiz. This is particularly helpful for students because if they think that they know this content, they can try to test out of it. And if they do well on that test out quiz, the system will let them skip this unit. Now, it'll also track, you know, if they did poorly on a particular lesson or particular part of that quiz that was related to choosing precise language, it will put that in what we call the review tab. And I'll show you that in just a minute. But this is a great way for students to really individualize their journey because they can move quickly through content by demonstrating mastery of that content. You'll see that there's one opportunity for the test out quiz. If they don't pass it, then they come through the whole program. And we have things like workplace connections. All of your lessons are here. And then there's a unit quiz at the end as well. So all of these units are accessible to you from here. Again, as I said, if you were teaching a group of students, either in face-to-face or online, you could pull up a lesson. So I could just click on main ideas and details, and it will launch this lesson directly in the program here. And I could be projecting this up on a screen so that I could demonstrate to folks what we're going to do. And so as I start the lesson, Maria is going to walk us through the ideas or the concepts in main ideas and details. Vocabulary is provided, so you can pre-teach vocabulary. Transcripts are provided, so you can see exactly what's going to be said and work through that. It also has closed captioning. It's mobile ready, and it works with screen readers. So if you have students with disabilities, it's prepared and aligned to be able to work with screen readers, so you can alt-tab and alt-tag your way through the whole program. You can also assign these lessons, which is nice. So if I knew I was going to do a lesson on main ideas and details next week, maybe, and I had a group of students that I wanted to do that with, I could create a class of those students, assign this lesson to that whole class. Maybe it's called my GED class. And I could put a note in, have this done by Monday. And that's going to appear in their learning box. And so they'll know they have this assignment from you. And so that will pre-teach this concept. And then when they come into your classroom or when they meet with you, you already have a foundation of knowledge that you can extend and expand on with individuals. So it's a great way, again, to do blended learning or flipped classroom models directly from the program. Another thing that's been particularly useful for people are practice tests. These are half-length practice tests. There are 4 of them for each content area in the GED. So you have 4 science, 4 language, 4 math. Now we do break up reading, language, and writing into separate areas because the actual instruction associated with each of those areas is unique to them. GED tests reading language arts, but you know, when you're teaching writing, you're teaching a very specific skill set. So that's why we break those apart. The practice tests are very good. You can view the test so that you can see what it actually looks like. We have all the item types that students would expect on a high stakes test like this. I love that we have an explain the answer section. So maybe if you're working with students, but you're not a science expert, to have an answer explanation here. Oftentimes you'll be working with students and kind of reviewing their tests, and this gives you a great way to talk about that. And then, of course, you can assign these practice tests. So with 4 practice tests, you have sufficient practice tests that students should not just be able to memorize answers. I think the research shows that as long as there's 17 days between assessment attempts, students cannot effectively remember enough to impact their score. So with 4 practice tests, you can space those out. The first practice test will create an individualized learning plan for each student, and then practice tests 2, 3, and 4 adjust and monitor those learning plans and are provided to students as they move through the different levels of the course. So let's jump in for just a second and show you what a homeroom looks like for the student and a couple of the features there. So when a student logs in, this is what they're going to see. They're going to see all of their options for courses along the top here. Our adult basic ed, student is in the high school equivalency courses, and then our work ready courses, which we'll talk about in just a minute. In the learning plan box here, this is where we're serving them lesson by lesson what they need. So they would just click on the big start lesson button and move forward. Any of those review lessons are going to pop up in the review tab for them. So if they've gone through a quiz and maybe there are a couple things they need to work on, it'll appear there. You can see the study progress of this student for each of the areas that they're working on. So if I switched over here to math, it would show what they would be doing in that area. So their progress is being monitored all the way through, as well as their mastery by each unit. It shows what elements they passed out of based on their practice test scores. And it'll keep track of their study time for them as well, showing them how much time they spend by week and by month. We also have recorded coaching sessions on all kinds of topics, study skills, specific content topics, motivation, all kinds of different things in this free coaching sessions box. And then, of course, they can access MindPlay reading coach here as well. And so they can go into their reading support specifically. Jump back to the LMS for a minute. And I want to go to, so let's talk just a minute about our workforce programs. I think these are really important because as students are building academic skills, the workforce programs provide a great way to dovetail with that. It provides support in fluency and critical thinking skills that are important outside of the academic skills, but it also prepares them for what their ultimate goal is, which is to get into a good career pathway. Our workforce readiness courses include our work essentials, our computer essentials, money essentials, and Dreamcatcher. And I'll show you a slide on that in just a minute. The work essentials is one of my favorite ones to talk about, though, because it's all the soft skills that improve your employability and that help students get good jobs and get hired for good jobs. And then even beyond that, to advance in those jobs. And I know, I'm sure all of you have experiences like I do dealing with young people nowadays who have grown up in kind of a technology-based environment. They're not as good at making eye contact. They're not as good at having conversations. Some of them come from homes where kind of work ethic and some of those skills have not been demonstrated effectively to them. Many of them come from places where they have not been taught about money and the power of money and how to manage your money effectively. And so these workforce courses can really benefit that and give them the skills they need to move forward in a job. In the US, and I'm not sure how it is where you are, but in the US, if you can come to work every day for about 90 days and not get in a fight in the parking lot with your other employees, and dress appropriately and speak, respectfully to people, you will get a raise and an advancement within that 90 days, starting at even probably the most menial of jobs. My son, who's now 22, started at the local grocery store when he was 18, and within 90 days, he was made, night supervisor of the checkers, because he was there every day, he dressed appropriately, he could look you in the eye, and he was pleasant to work with. And employers are just dying for people that have that skill set. And so we'll look a little bit about that in just a second. Our workforce curriculum is a kind of a pathway. Starts with Dreamcatcher, which is a tool to help people plan their careers. It starts with what their purpose is. So it's not just an assessment that says, you take a bunch of questions and then it tells you that you should be an electrician, and maybe you don't want to be an electrician. But it says, what's your purpose? What do you feel like you are here to do? What are the things that interest you and engage you and that you're passionate about? And then our digital literacy course, Computer Essentials, is aligned with the IC3 Digital Literacy Certification, Level 1. So it builds all those basic digital literacy and computer skills someone needs to be effective in a workplace. That includes things like email, working with word processing and spreadsheet programs. It also includes things like safety online and dealing with the changes in mobile technology and understanding how you're tracked and what types of things are monitoring you and you're agreeing to when you sign up for different apps and things like that. It also starts at a very basic level, like how to move a mouse. We have many people who are particularly good at using their thumbs on phones, but not particularly good at actually using a true computer. And so it starts at the basic level of using a mouse and navigating a desktop screen, and builds all those basic skills for people. Our workplace skills, Work Essentials, as I said, has 3 areas. The first one is about getting a job. So it's all those things like interviewing and preparing a resume and applying to online applications, things like that. Then it has a whole section on what we call Job Ready, which is what are those skills your employers want you to have when you walk in that workplace on day one? That's taking initiative and being on time and being respectful to others and dressing appropriately and all of those types of things. And then the third section are what are those skills that will get you advanced in that workplace? And I love that one because it's things like project management and being organized and keeping good records and all of those types of things that when an employer sees that you have skills like that and you're good at those things, they are going to push you forward because they're always looking for people who can add to the workplace and bring skills that improve efficiency and effectiveness. And then, as I said, Money Essentials is a course to provide basic financial literacy so that people understand how money can be used to create wealth and security long term. All of these can be linked to Mind Play as well. And again, I think you might be running classes just on workplace skills, but integrating Mind Play into that and having that additional reading support can be really powerful for people because everything foundationally builds on your reading skills. One of the cool things about this is that both Computer Essentials and Work Essentials are aligned with Credly for digital badges. So at the end of those courses, they receive certificates on each of the sections and then an overall certificate. And those certificates push badges into the Credly digital system. If you're not familiar with Credly, Credly is the largest digital credential network. So basically, it's kind of like a LinkedIn, except it's for real skills and badges for individuals, probably at a slightly lower level than what you see on LinkedIn most of the time. But basically, the student can create this portfolio that explains to a prospective employer what skills they actually have. And employers can go in and look at those portfolios, see the skill sets, recognize that this student has what they need, and get them hired. I think it's great because it also says to any employer, just by the fact that the student has a Credly portfolio, that they are a digitally savvy individual, that they understand that, you know, the digital world is not going away. And so they are preparing themselves to move forward in that realm. Let's jump over to the program real quick, and I just want to show you a couple things. So if I come in here to the product and I change this over to Work Essentials, and we come to Content Maps, oops, and Scope and Sequence. So just a couple of the key areas here that I just want to emphasize so you can see. This is over 80 lessons in the whole program, but it's really important things. So it's goal-oriented thinking. Most of us do that with students anyway, because a lot of them don't know how to set effective goals and track effective goals. Things like workplace communication, listening to others, observing carefully, responding to criticism. That's a really important topic, because a lot of young people nowadays do not take criticism effectively. And it's important to be able to understand that, you know, if I'm going to get better at something, somebody's going to have to give me a view of myself that I can't see just from my own perspective. Professionalism, things like I've said about your appearance, demonstrating self-control, your work ethic. There's topics on initiative, setting challenging goals, working independently, achievement motivation. There's things on dependability, following directions, attending to details, and then customer focus. Everybody has a customer. No matter what your job is, somewhere you have a customer. So understanding those needs, providing personalized service, acting professionally, all of that is particularly important to young people nowadays, and changes the way that they go into the workforce if they're effective and efficient in these areas. So we're real excited about this. We just launched Work Essentials recently. We've also just launched a new guide to our Computer Essentials course to help educators learn how to overlay digital literacy skills on top of academic teaching. And so if I come to our free resources tab here, there's a lot of support for people in here. You'll see we have a digital literacy implementation guide that we literally just launched maybe 10 days ago. This guide is really providing pacing so that you can teach digital literacy skills while you're teaching your academic curriculum. What we found here is that people were struggling with, they know they needed to teach digital literacy skills, but I've got a whole math curriculum I have to teach. How am I going to get through both of these? And so we've created 3 pacing guides in here, one that allows people to spend 15, maybe 30 minutes a week introducing some digital literacy, and then letting them work on our Computer Essentials program on their own. Then there's a pacing guide for the teacher who wants to spend an hour to 2, maybe 3 hours a week doing activities and doing some more direct teaching of digital literacy. And then there's a pacing guide if you wanted to teach a separate digital literacy course where you're actually teaching it as a standalone course. We're real excited about this guide, and it's just one of many tools that we offer for folks. So again, this is in our free resources tab. Our 3D differentiation guide is a tool for educators to show them how to get better at differentiating instruction for students. There's all kinds of other guides in here, things like introductory lesson plans, mastery learning, what the whole premise of that is, distance education, implementing distance education guide. So if you're doing a lot of things through distance ed and want to look at how can we improve what we're doing and providing to the members of our community, that's available. There's guides for hybrid classroom, curriculum blueprints. This library is ever growing, and it's all free resources that are available for you to enhance your program. And then one other thing, because I know we want to leave some good time for questions. If you go to our website, essentialed.com/educators, the far side over here, of course, there's information about all of our products up here, but there's a section called professional development. And if you come down to the Tuesdays with Essential Education, this is a webinar series that we've been doing for, gosh, I want to say like 6 or 7 years now. But the professional development webinars are free for you, and they cover all kinds of different topics. In 2023, we have started, all of them have been around the idea of retention. And we identified 6 retention anchors that anchor students to your program. And so this is actually the 4th one that will be coming up in August. It's on developing deep relationships with students. But if you come down and look at our past ones, we have a retention anchor on creating culture, one on just-in-time instruction, one on really getting to know your audience. And then prior to that, our sessions included, let's see, that didn't launch, there it goes. Sessions included things like moving from examples to exemplary, differentiation, how to spot and support student learning differences, where we really looked at those different learning differences and disabilities, the student relationships, digital toolbox. There's so much content in here for you to access. Let's see. Checking my notes to see if I've left anything out. There is a full teacher toolkit in here too. So if you go to the teacher toolkit, you can sign up in here for downloads and other tools, implementation, recruiting. All you do is fill out the form and you'll get access to all of those free materials as well. So Sean, I think I actually a couple minutes early, but that was the general overview.
Well, Dan, thank you so much. I think it was a very extensive overview. You can just switch off your screen sharing for a moment.
Sure.
Thank you, really. I think it was very valuable, and I've received quite a lot of questions on email. I don't know why we're getting by email and not on the comments facility, but I'm happy to ask them anyway. I just want to say one or two things before, and that is that I know a lot of people think that this is only for the GED, and GED is a huge part of what you do at Essential Ed, but it's not only what you do, and I think you showed that, and it's a very important fact to understand and to realize that students, what do they do the day after they graduate? Yeah. And as you know, I mean, you were at the GED International Conference last week or this week, and it was last week, and the feedback that I received was that many sessions that were held there and questions were all about after the students graduate. What do we do? Where in the workforce? What do they study? What can they do? What type of jobs can they get? How do we prepare them for those jobs? And that's got nothing to do with the GED. It's got to do everything to do with just general, anybody that's doing any curriculum, whether it's the Cambridge curriculum, the American curriculum, the South African curriculum, it doesn't matter. The fact is that preparing students for the future is just as important, if not more important, than the curriculum that they're using. And that's why I really, really love your workforce plan, that you start off with a dream catcher course and work them through all the different courses. And so I want to say to the existing Essential Ed users and resellers out there that there's a lot more to Essential Ed than just the GED. I think it's worth looking at it and promoting it, because it can not only help you, but it can help all the students out there by actually improving their chances of doing well in life after they have graduated. And at the same time, if there's anybody out there that is not involved with us yet and working through us to promote and to offer essential education courses in your school or online or wherever it may be, please get hold of us. Lindsay has been emailing you quite a few times recently, so you do have an email address, but she'll also put it on the comments in YouTube so that you have her email address to make contact with us so that we can help you help your students.
Sean,
Dan, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I mean, I'm sure this, I assume that this is a international issue, which is we have a lot of people who have come out of COVID and lockdowns that happened in schools and different things like that, that are not functioning where they were probably 15, 20 years ago when they came out of school, you know? And in the US, what we see is people who can do the technical aspects of trades and are qualified to actually do the work, but they can't pass the certification tests that are necessary to get certified. And the good jobs in the US, like at Boeing or at, you know, BMW plant or things like that, they require you to be certified. You may be a great welder, but if you're not a certified welder, BMW isn't going to hire you. Boeing isn't going to hire you to put an engine on an airplane that's going to go up to 30,000. That certification. And so these programs are academic programs, you know, whether it's called GED or TABE or whatever, those academic programs give people the math, reading, and writing skills that they need to pass certifications, to pass employer assessments. A lot of our employers now are putting assessments into their application process because they want to know that people can actually add and subtract fractions if you're going to hire somebody to make furniture or something like that. And so I think there is, to your point, a really strong connection between our content and then tying it to those workforce programs and sending somebody out confident that they can achieve certifications and get good jobs and be successful in those jobs.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right in what you're saying there. And I think a big part of it that you've just mentioned, it really boils down to critical thinking skills.
Yes.
And that is what essential education really teaches from day one. When you click to start your lessons, it's all about critical thinking, and the future is all about critical thinking skills. Google remembers everything that you need to know, that you need to think for yourself. And so to me, that's really, really important. And that comes through in all the different courses that you offer. So let me just ask a couple of questions that have come through. The
Sure.
first one was specifically on the Mindplay course. Is it beneficial to students who struggle with English because it's not their first language?
So it isn't designed truly as English as a second language course. So when you design something that's meant to teach reading to students, you know, that are ESL, you typically do more work around some of the idioms and things like that in language that are relevant to English. However, we do have people who are using it in that capacity very successfully because it goes all the way down to a literacy level, right to the very bottom, right? So you starting with phonics and fluency, it is a full reading course. So I think what I would say is if you're probably in a situation where someone has no experience with English, you know, it may not be the perfect fit for that. if you have a situation where someone has some experience with English and they've, crossed paths with it at times, then you probably can build pretty effectively on it. And the fact that it's integrated directly into our program makes it so easy that students.
And I think just to add to that is that just to remind people that the Mindplay course as well is really designed to improve not only reading speed, but more important than that, reading comprehension.
Yeah.
And reading comprehension is key to being able to pass any trade test that you mentioned. So I think it's really, really important part from that perspective as well.
And the two things are actually really linked, I would just say, which is fluency and comprehension are two sides of the same coin in a way. Like, you can listen to someone read who is very slow and very labored in their reading. And if your reading speed isn't fast enough, all you're doing is reading individual words, and you're never putting them together in the context of a whole sentence to develop meaning. And so, the two aspects really have to go hand in hand. One of the things I love about Mindplay is how effective it is at building both fluency and comprehension at the same time.
And I always say to Sean, I always say to Sean that I actually did a similar course when I was in high school. And I can still today see the benefits of having done such a course through university studies, through work, being able to read faster and comprehend what you're reading. You can get through a bigger load of work quicker. So I'm the biggest believer in Mindplay because I've personally seen the benefits of it.
And it can benefit kids at school of all levels. But not only that, I was actually recently chatting to a registrar of one of the universities, and he was telling me that the biggest challenge with first-year students is simply the fact that they aren't able to comprehend even what they're reading or what they're trying to understand, which is also the comprehension and the critical thinking skills. It all boils down to that. And so that's why it doesn't matter if you're at university, if you're at work, or if you're 12 years old. There's no reason why you can't do this Mindplay course, because it can benefit you forever. And so I highly, highly recommend that.
And truly, the pricing to add it into our programs, is you can't find a full-blown reading course like this, at a price point that we've set. It's really unbelievable.
Agreed.
So, yeah.
Agreed. One thing that I really liked, and it actually links into a few of the questions that I've got next, is your free resources tab. I think it's a great thing that we need to remind everybody about. Some of the questions was, the first one was, can these programs be used for hybrid learning? Well, one of the resources was how to use Essential-Ed in hybrid learning. So I think that was it's an amazing thing, and I really highly recommend everybody that has access to Essential-Ed to go and read and access those free resources. The second one was, in terms of study loads, can the GED be studied together with work essential courses? You covered that as well. That's your latest resource that you said you've just released 10 days ago. And so I would assume the answer is yes. Just depends how much time you actually want to allocate, and that resource I would highly recommend everyone reviewing, because then you can provide not only GED, but all these other resources for the students.
And I would just say one of our states here, West Virginia, uses our GED program across the board. And they also require students to get a digital literacy certificate. So they use our computer essentials side by side with it. They have free. Every high school graduate or every high school equivalency graduate comes out with both their high school equivalency certificate from the state and a digital literacy certificate from the state. And they've trained all their employers to understand this is what this means. These individuals have basic digital literacy skills. We are in the process of writing the same type of manual to overlay the Work Essentials course into the other courses, so that, you know, it'll be the same type of format. We'll provide pacing guides with activities and information to show you if you want to teach an academic course with a workforce specific direction, you can. You want digital literacy, or you can do one before the other and do them both over time. So,
well, that's great. I think it's really important. And as you mentioned, these students are graduating not with a high school diploma, but also with additional skills, which you can immediately put onto your CV and put it on LinkedIn, link all your badges, and have a better chance of getting a much better job. Another question was from Monia is how can students switch on the screen reader? Can you just talk us through that?
Well, so a screen reader is for students with visual impairments. And I think some of them actually are like a physical device that overlays on top. And then some of them are just programs that you launch our program inside of. My internet seems to be unstable. Hopefully you can still hear me.
Yes.
Okay, so.
And also, I think just to add to that is the closed captions as well. Jenna just mentioned that. I think it's great. It's not only that you have to listen, but you can also read.
Yeah,
at the same time.
And there's a flyer in that free resources that goes over all of our accessibility tools and shows exactly which tools are available in the program, how they work, and give you a nice overview of how the program's set up to work with students with different disabilities.
Great. So Monia, head over to those free resources. I think that's the place to be. And I think what we always do is we record these webinars and we send out an email with the recording. What we'll do is, Lindsay, if you can also just make a note to include the link to the free resources for everybody that already has access to Essential Ed. Another question was, are there any special features for students with special needs? Well, I guess we've just answered that question right now. So I think in general, these courses are really incredible. If I could just ask you, I don't think we covered in great detail the Dreamcatcher course. If you just talk us through that just for 2 minutes.
Sure. One of the nice things, as I said about Dreamcatcher, is it starts with what's your purpose. And so they have some videos where individuals are really talking about how they found their purpose in life. One is a baker, one is wants to be in film, one is an actor. All kinds of different experiences and how they came to that understanding. And so what Dreamcatcher is going to first do is establish that success is defined differently for each person. And you have to figure out what it means to you. And once you have an idea of that, Dreamcatcher is then going to take you and say, let's look at all the careers that connect with what you want to accomplish in your life. And so it takes you to a site done by the US government called ONET. And it lists all of the jobs in the US with all of their details and pay scales and things like that, and what the requirements are for those jobs. Most people don't realize the breadth of jobs that exist in the world. Most of our young people don't. Like in the US, you can make somewhere between $75,000 and $100,000 as an entry-level elevator repairman. Now, most people don't think about repairing elevators as a career pathway, right? But that's a really good job. There are elevators everywhere. It has great stability. The projections for that are off the charts for need, because we're going to have all the people who know how to repair them are going to be retiring in the next 10 years. And there aren't enough people coming in to repair them. It's a job that you will be able to have a long, effective career in. But people don't know about that. And so Dreamcatcher helps people see what those careers are, make a choice, and then it guides them through the process of developing a plan to get from where they are to that career field. And so it does it all very systematically and helps them create this real individualized pathway for themselves.
Yeah, that sounds like a really exciting course. I think that's really something that all GED students, or all students generally, should be considering doing. When should they start that? During the process, or right at the beginning, or whenever?
Yeah, I think it's important to do it early on because, first of all, it doesn't require a high level of education to get into it. You're going to do some writing and some self-exploration, journaling, but it isn't like it requires high math skills or high reading skills or anything like that. You can get into it at a pretty early level. And so students from really middle school up can start accessing this and start thinking about, what is my pathway, so that they don't end up, how many people do you know who switched their majors in college like 5 times, right? And they graduated, and like in the US, you need like 125 credits to graduate with a bachelor's degree. I know people who have like 300 credits before they, before they graduate. They switch so many times, right? And that's not an effective use of your money, right? It would be much better if you had a more clear pathway for yourself. And so many young people nowadays that I talk to say, I don't know what I want to do with my life, right? They're not sure. And so Dreamcatcher helps get them in a pathway that can start narrowing that so that they're not wasting money or time and they're moving in a direction. And all of that directional kind of endpoint for someone keeps them motivated to continue with the other studies. Right? If you know, there's an old saying that if your why is strong enough, you can endure any how. And I love that, because if I know that I want to be, elevator repairman or something else, right? I will do what it takes. If my why is strong enough, I'll do whatever it takes. But we need those whys to be in place, or else people don't really stay connected and they don't stay engaged and they don't stay on a pathway and do the hard work that requires to get from one place to another.
Yeah, so I think let's help all our students, no matter where they are, get onto the pathway so that we can help them succeed in life. And on that note, thank you, Dan, so much for all your inputs and guidance and expertise. And everyone out there, if you're interested in essential education courses, please get hold of Lindsay. You can just email us on info@edsol.co.za. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.